States of America, to the republic which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Laura?
Andrew Benson. Here. Katrina Biekowitz. Here. Doug Dake.
Here.
Joseph Wetmore.
Here.
Edward Levine.
Here. First order of business, the public hearing for proposed local law number 5, 2018, amending local law number 8, 2015, to change certain dog licensing requirements for service. Someone like to make a motion to open?
I'll move that.
Hold it, phone fast.
Let's do it then.
Go. So we have a motion and a second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Go ahead.
As I remember, we're changing the fee structure to now charge licensing fees to people who've got service animals. Am I getting this right? Okay. And the problem is, and I've seen this all over town, in which more and more people are claiming every animal is a service animal to avoid fees, to allow them to go to restaurants and stuff, and it's being abused. And there were problems here in our office over this issue. And so to just stop that, we decided to change the law to charge the same amount to everybody, service animals and not.
Service dogs and that, right,
Is
correct.
it just dogs or is it animals?
Just dogs.
Just dogs.
Yeah. And it's going to be consistent with every dog. So whatever that license is, that,
Yes.
you got another 3 seconds, we'll keep going.
So they're currently exempt.
Exempt.
No, I don't think I should.
They just get charged the state fee
Yeah,
right now.
$1
Not at the
or
time.
$10 or something like that.
So it's like it's either $1 or $2 or $3, depending on if they're new or not.
But when you pay the dog license fee, the town keeps part of it goes to the state. And we charge them the state fee, but not the town.
Does it extend to emotional support dogs?
It's all of them.
Right, that's part of what the service dogs are. I mean, people think of service dogs is not just the ones that use, for instance, the old thing was C9 dogs. Right now they use it for a lot of other things, especially veterans.
Which is all fine, but the problem is everybody's now got an emotional support dog, and they all say they're exempt from all the rules because that's their service dog, and it sort of ends the rules that way.
My cousin has an emotional support lizard.
Lizards are not required to
It
get
doesn't have a
licenses.
license.
They're not required to.
So we can't drive either because of
Yeah.
that.
Before we go any further down that road, down that road. All right. We appreciate that, don't you? It is my gift to you. If there is no other public comment.
Well, did you ask if there's public comment?
We had. So
We had one, right?
We had a very spirited dialogue going on. And I've learned so much. I don't know how they would, if they can't drive, they can't do pedals, right?
Can you do the pedals that you can't read?
They have thumbs, they can't play the steering wheel either, can they? The next time I see one of those Geico commercials, I'm going to look very closely. Okay, no silliness. Does anybody else have any comments during our public comment period? If not, would someone like to make a motion to close the public hearing? Sure.
I'll second
You know, Andrew, you are feeling a lot better, aren't you?
that. We started so late, why don't we stop?
There you go.
In favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Well, let's move on to item number 5 then.
I'll move the resolution adopting local law number 5.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? Mr. Nemechek?
Andrew Benson.
Yes.
Katrina Biekowitz. Yes. Doug Dake.
Yes.
Joseph Wetmore.
Yes.
Edward Levine.
Yes.
So the total fee is $10 now, including the state?
It's 15 if they're spayed or neutered, and 25 if they are not spayed or neutered.
Okay. Move on to number 6 on the agenda, which is privilege of the floor. If anybody would like to speak for a maximum of 3 minutes, and we'll keep this to 20 minutes.
I had some.
I think the math is that this whole thing is
Well, that's simply following what we got. You know, we got to follow what we got. Like, who knows, there may be a stampede here in the next 3 minutes. You never know.
that's true, that is possible.
This is town information, but I don't think you have it at your fingertips.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So I was just here to speak about the resolution,
And you are Melanie Moore.
Melanie Long, Meyer Sites, about the resolution regarding 341 Ridge Road. And some of the things I have to say I've said already, and it's common knowledge that it's a grandfathered use. This is the auto repair shop on 34B in Meyer Road. And so we know that the owner can get a reasonable return on his property without a zoning change if he chooses to sell, and that the continued grandfathered use goes with the property. So it could be vacant for 1 year and then an additional 6 months if you were to receive an extension. So my concerns are not personal, related to the landowner. It's more has to do with the overall responsible stewardship of zoning in that area. For the foreseeable future, it's going to be where our schools are. It's the passageway to the town park. It's nearby Lansing's only public access to Key Lake, and of course near Salt Point Natural Area and the state fishing area. My other concerns are, after I read this resolution, I did have a few questions that I'm wondering if someone could clarify for me. It says that this resolution is to make a correction. But if you look at the 1994 comp plan and the 1998 to 99 zoning map, and then you look at the 2003 or the current zoning map, you can see the difference. So if you consider the comp plan of 94 and the 1998 land use ordinance, it's pretty clear that the Lake Shore 1 zone purpose was to regulate development of land nearby the lake. And this parcel is less than a half mile from the lake, and a portion of it is on a slope. So it's pretty clear that there was a deliberate delineation of this B1 zone at Portman Point Road for some legitimate reasons in regards to responsible planning. So the change, if you see the overall change from B1, it's over 30 acres and miles of road frontage, not just one little parcel that was like mistakenly. So I'm just wondering if that actual error has actually been clearly established and verified. It doesn't seem to be the case. It appears that the elimination of the B1 zone appears to be part of deliberate planning. Additionally, 341 Ridge Road was last purchased in 2002. So the 2003 adopted land use ordinance and the 2003 zoning map update appear to have followed the correct process, including notices and public hearings, but there's no record to this zoning change in any of that documentation. The resolution also states that the planning board unanimously recommended this. And that's troublesome to me because I have been at land use ordinance meetings and planning board meetings, and I have heard a planning board member say more than once that he considers this change spot zoning. So I'm wondering if the board has actually spoken with this planning board member to get his perspective on it and kind of clarify that for us. The other issue is already been addressed by me and other members about concerns about B1 zoning at this parcel. I included the land use ordinance and the B1 use permitted uses as well as the Lake Shore permitted uses so that you can see the differences. So we know that town officials don't have control over any prospective businesses that may want to locate there, but you do have control over the zoning that you put there. So the current B1 definition, which I also included, specifies that B1 is to allow for a relatively dense development in light industry. I mean, is that something that we really want at this parcel? states that any B1 use is to closely consider the effects on adjacent land uses and safe movement of traffic. So these are two additional reasons B1 zoning is not compatible at this lot. It's also not consistent with the surrounding uses. There are no B1 zones nearby. There are institutional uses of churches and schools and residential areas. There are no B1 zones adjacent to this lot. So the other issue is there a public need for this? There's 156 acres available of the town center land, some of it's been purchased. That's dedicated as a B1 area for concentrated B1 development there and the surrounding area near that. There are also numerous vacant commercial buildings and vacant commercial lots that are available. There's a surplus of B1 availability in Lansing. So I wish that someone could tell me what the need is for B1 of this parcel. Great consideration has been given to the individual financial gain of the landowner. Yes, Mr. Holmberg is a very nice man, but zoning needs to be objective. Almost done. So I would like to know if there's a legitimate public purpose to the zoning change and how the nearby property values, quality of life, and long-term vision of Lansing will be protected with this B1 zoning change, and how is it going to preserve the unique character of that area. And so I just wondered if some discussion could be made on the community benefit of that area, of that zoning change. So, and lastly, I would just like to submit a petition, which is still ongoing right now. I can submit to you what I have so far from residents in the area.
We can put it in the public record for the rest of it.
Thank you. So I'm not sure how property values and quality of life is going to be preserved if there's a Dunkin' Donuts or a Dollar Tree or a 24-hour gas station at this lot, which is in a really
What is the
unique
petition
area,
asking for?
very valuable to Lansing.
What is the petition asking for?
You want?
Sure.
She has a copy of it. You want a copy of this?
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Just vote it. Okay.
Okay. It's very artistic.
Yeah.
Okay, anyone else want to exercise privilege of the floor?
Can I just add one thing I forgot to say? The last part that I wanted to say is that the residents, including that petition and others, are asking the town board to hold off on changing the zoning on this parcel until the above concerns that I mentioned tonight are publicly addressed, and that the zoning change at this parcel is given careful, thoughtful consideration to determine if there is any other commercial use that could be at this property that would be beneficial for the area. Maybe there is a commercial use that would be beneficial, or maybe there isn't, but it's within the town's jurisdiction to regulate zoning in regards to determining that. Thank you. That's it. Really.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to exercise privilege of the floor? Now I'd like to close that session and move on. Number 7, resolution scheduling public hearing for proposed local law number 6 of 2018. A local law to make one minor amendment and correction to the official town of Lansing zoning. Someone make a motion?
This is just schedule a public hearing.
As we schedule the public hearing, it would be for 6/31. And it would be on December 19th, and it would be at the Lansing Town.
Sure.
Okay, you have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any further discussion? Laura?
Andrew Benson?
Yes.
Trina Binkowitz?
Yes.
Doug
Day?
Yes.
Joseph Whitmore?
Yes.
Edward Levine?
Yes. Item number 8, discuss the loader, the highway department. Everyone, I think, has seen the information. The guy has done his usual thorough analysis. This is the latest, if you want to hand it up. This is the latest analysis that the guy has come up with. I think these leases change depending on when the guys who moving forward, I think we've all talked to Cricket about this. He's being very selective and very cautious as far as what the value for the town is. Having said that, guy, you want to this at all?
Well, Cricket asked me to do it because complying with 109B and the comptroller's regulations is not simple stuff. What it basically requires is that you comply with all the procurement requirements for the goods, as well as meet specific types of procurement and competitive bidding requirements now for the financing as well. So in order to do installment agreements, such as a lease finance, you have to do a fiscal analysis comparing it and its costs to your other available methods of financing to try to make sure that not necessarily it's the cheapest, but that given all the attendant circumstances, there's a rational basis to believe it's the best choice. So I called a number of banks. I looked at bond rates on Bloomberg that were current. I got bids, I got quotes, I got ballparks, and then I plugged it all into a formula on a 5-year payoff for bonds and bands, for statutory installment bonds, and for lease financing. And the amortization table kicked out the amount of applicable interest. Then I looked at what are your closing costs for them, because obviously bonds are very expensive. You can't do bands perpetually for equipment, only 2 years, unlike a taxing assessment where you can go band year after year after year. So this is how the numbers broke out, and in talking with Cricket and understanding what some of the other fiscal reasons are for doing this, given ongoing repairs, maintenance costs, and the high trade-in value given the age of the current piece of equipment, plus the fact that he's capturing a sort of a last-ditch low rate in 2018, all of that factored in. He didn't have to because the numbers are the numbers, but you're supposed to have a written analysis justifying it, supporting what the decision was on a lease finance deal. It's still not officially part of the local finance law. That's why it's in the general municipal law. So this is the fiscal analysis that I did based on all the information I gathered. Yeah, it's up to you to determine whether it's persuasive, accurate, whether you want more information, as you wish.
You say T equals, okay, what's T?
Total.
Total being?
Yeah, total. Yeah, that's the total is the total cost of everything over 5 years: the equipment, the financing, and the transactional costs.
Well, it's not $12, I'm going to show
Well, yeah, I probably should have a K on it, but it's 12.1.
Okay.
Thank you. I
Sorry.
was going to ask the same.
I'll make that correction.
Okay, that makes way more sense.
Okay. Yeah, the K is missing. Sorry, it dropped off on an edit probably, or I made a typo.
Okay. Now,
So the black triangle is the closest that I have on my program to a therefore symbol.
okay.
To try to keep this, so you know, the 3 dots.
Yeah.
I don't have to tell you, you've been close.
Yeah, I understand.
So the installment payment agreement, because it has very low transactional cost and actually has the lowest interest rate net right now, mainly because it's a double piggyback. It's piggybacked through NJCP and the Office of General Services, both on the equipment and on the lease deal. The lease finance deal that was selected has already been gone through the public bidding process too. And that's why it's locked in at 2.2, which is well under current market rate. So Cricket's estimation of why this is the way to go is on the numbers correct. Now the question is for the town board to determine whether that expenditure is warranted, and I think you already covered that. But it's up to you to decide. It's not my call.
Well, this is where my request for putting together a capital budget for the town comes in, because I look at this loader, and I'm sure we need a loader. I'm sure it's nicer to have a newer one. but I can't really see it in the context of all the equipment we're buying over the next 5 years or 10 years, because I don't have a long-term projection of which equipment we're planning on replacing when. And that's what a capital budget would do, is it would give me the context in which this fits in, for me to be able to judge, is this fitting into our 5-year plan, 10-year plan, or is this, bouncing us up? And so I'm not going to object to this, but I really want us to start putting together a capital budget so that we have the information before us to make decisions like this on a real educated basis of, does this fit into a long-term plan?
Yeah, I'm not saying you should or shouldn't do it, I'm saying this is the fiscal analysis for this lease if you choose to go forward. I don't even have the resolution before you yet, because I think you still have to make those decisions.
Right, and I'm saying, what I want to be able to start doing is putting these kind of decisions into a longer-term context, which is what a capital plan would do. It would be telling me what kind of equipment we're expecting to be replacing over the next few years, and is this fitting into that plan? Are we ahead of ourselves, or are we behind ourselves? And not having a long-term capital plan doesn't give me the information to make a good decision here based on the town's long-term needs.
So let me recommend something to you. This is something I did on my own. I didn't have to have anybody do it for me. Is to go over and meet with Cricket. We see already what Patrick has set forth with his equipment. That's already spelled out. We already have a 5-year projection, which I gave to you. We go out and reach out to Cricket and meet with him, and you'll see what the projections are for every other year as far as going forward with the trucks. You see what other stuff is going on. The other thing is that you simply cannot micromanage everything. This is a situation that came up, but this wasn't planned. You actually got to hold for $38,000 on this trade-in. Should I fix it with $20-some thousand or not? So a lot of times you have to have a basis of education so you go forward to make a decision of value. You also have to trust the judgment of the elected officials who run those different departments as he comes forward and has methodically explained this to us. I think when you meet with Cricket and you'll see that the trucks are scheduled, which we have done in the last few years, these trucks are scheduled for a 14-year lifespan, and there's 7 of them, so you're going to rotate them every other year. And then in between that's the allocation of other trucks. But what has to happen is you have to be flexible enough that if a deal comes along, which gives value to our taxpayers, then you simply have to trust the judgment of the department head to give you the accurate information, which he has. He set this out months ago. He even said, thank you for voting for it. Nothing happened. You simply need to read about it and ask him those questions on your own. So there's plenty of information out there for people to do that. Like I said, I met when I was on the town board, similar to what you are now. I met with Jack French, and I met when he was the highway superintendent, and I also met with the Cricket. They appreciate you going up there and doing that for them, and they will share that information for you. A lot of town board members have not been frustrated because they have not shown the courtesy of going up to the highway department in their office and asking for that information. So, you have started a great relationship with them. If you meet with them, I'm sure that you'll see going forward what that information is. So we have other information there. Tonight's,
I got a question. You're talking about a total capital
A
plan.
total capital budget for the
So,
entire town.
we already started working on that, right? So it's a matter of getting more information, and we have, I think we're heading towards fewer total meetings, so maybe there's more time for subcommittee working on stuff.
well, once again, if somebody wants to put that together, okay.
I mean, I appreciate what he's saying about seeing it on the large framework, and I appreciate what you're saying, that things happen. You do the pros and cons, you come up with the best deal. So I don't think anybody's saying we shouldn't do this and this wasn't the way to do it. It's just,
And to your point, maybe the rest of us, because we have so much more experience, are comfortable with going forward on this. But if you want to put that together, we give you projections.
I think he said he's comfortable with going forward on this.
I did say that.
I'm saying going forward with the 5-year plan.
Oh, okay, got it, thank you.
If you want to put one of those together, go ahead. You have the information there. Meet with him and go forward. I look forward to that. And like I said, you stress this time and time again. Put forth the effort and see where it goes. Any other discussion?
But let's get him his load.
Let's get with Lord. Where are we now? discussion. So for tonight, we're discussing this, but the resolution will be here at our next
Regular meeting.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
I
So
mean,
we have,
we're
I guess
gonna-
we have a consensus to move forward with this. Is that, are you comfortable with the discussion?
That's fine.
Yeah, right, I mean, I didn't want to present the resolution, I thought you needed to look at it, chew on it, and if you want to have a resolution ready, and for whatever reason, you're not ready to go forward in December, we'll push it to January or not do it at all, you
I'm
guys
not sure
decide.
we pushed it, Jan, I think that's part of the point.
Yeah, that's true, we could push it to January, but everything would change.
Right.
The numbers may not work anymore, but, you know,
But if you're gonna, we agree to the resolution, we're all comfortable with it.
see where it
We'll
goes.
move forward.
Yeah.
I think if we've come to a consensus to move forward on this then. And also, out of respect for you, we're not trying to give you guys pop-ups at the last minute.
No extra work.
We're trying to, as we move forward, we have one meeting a month, we're trying to get as much stuff in the first 2 weeks, or the first, let's say the first week. So it gives us plenty of time, 2 weeks to maybe prepare, so that we don't have these OMGs or whatever going on. I think that's
Well,
fair.
The reason I did a full breakdown and talked to Cricket and got it is because there's nothing magic about doing these types of analyses, but understanding what an actual fiscal analysis is under lease financing rules, because they almost didn't renew it. The actual statute allowing lease financing, installment and payment agreements, the reason it's in the general municipal law is because it hasn't been approved as a permanent form of municipal financing. Governments can only finance in approved ways. We can't go to Jim Smith and say, hey, we want to borrow 10,000. We can only use bonds, TAMs, RANs, statutory installment bonds. There's only certain things we can do. And so lease financing is a very, very useful, very flexible, very fast tool. And the state almost did not renew the option because people weren't doing the analysis. That was, but at the end, it came in the budget and they extended, the statute sunsetted, but they re-extended it through 2021. And I'm thinking eventually they'll put it in the local finance law, but not yet.
So you think this is a phase-out type of thing, or is this the last before they move on?
Don't know. I think it'll become a permanent form of financing as long as it remains advantageous. In other words, you can't get 2.2 or 2.3% on much of anything anymore. The only thing you can get rates like that on are, renewals of self-assessing improvements. You still see 2 3s and 2 4s on that. So these ones that go through the public bidding process and are vetted by the Office of General Services, they lock them in for a year, so you can, if the rate goes up like it has been going up, you're getting a rate from March of 2018 in December of 2018. I don't know how you beat that, but at least the other banks did bid and gave us some numbers.
So the next discussion will be, once this is, to your point, once this is hopefully, I want to say that word now, hopefully passed, is that you look at, okay, in 5 years it'll be paid off. In 5 years, what's the lifespan of a quote-unquote loader? Once again, it's not written in stone, but maybe after 5 years, is there a deal out there where you can flip it for something else, and do you do another lease cheaper than that or not? Those are part of the analysis, which Rick and I have already discussed. So a lot of this, to your point, isn't that we're not doing it. To us, it becomes second nature.
Well, we should have an overall plan.
And I understand, and once again, we've set of eyes. I appreciate that. But on the other hand, to have that discussion further down the road with the loader, or maybe something else comes up where you can flip it. Like I said, he was looking at, I think, 38,000, 53, there's 53, or 15 plus, you're not going to put 20-some thousand to fix the other one. So having said that.
We respect his efforts to
Yeah, he doesn't have loader
get
in
the
it.
best value.
This
That's
is-
right.
But
The state's having us review this for a reason, and this is how I feel that we're supposed to review it. In the context of the overall town's capital budget, can we afford to do this kind of move, or are we doing this, and then we're repaving a tennis court, and then we're doing something else somewhere else, and our capital budget's moving ahead of us. And if we have the overall picture as a spreadsheet saying this is what our plans are, then when this comes before us, we can say, oh, look, we're a little bit ahead here, but I see how we're gonna pick it up because we're getting a better price.
As we have discussed before, the first thing we need to do is get the fund balance policy in place, which we did, and reserve policy in place, which we did, and as the pieces start to form, marching along, and one of the sources of information, and I will help you with this, okay, I'm not going to just throw you out there, is that when we look at the insurance, we look for insurance, they list every piece of equipment. So when God forbid a tornado hits the highway department and it wipes out the machines, do we have full coverage or not? Things of that nature. So there is a list of equipment, and like I said, he's very forthright with the information. And he'll say, for instance, and one of the things I'll share with this right now is the agonizing over this Gradle. Do you lease? Okay, so you're aware of that.
I'm aware of that.
Okay, so do you lease a Gradle and not buy another one? Do you fix this one up because we have use for it? Do you buy a new one if the numbers work? These are all things. I mean, he wrestles with all these
You get
things.
together with the village and maybe the town of Ithaca and say, can we share one? There's lots of options.
There are. The thing when you lease it is that you usually don't need it on demand. You usually have these jobs that you can space out. Except something like dredging of Salmon Creek. That has, we basically rent out the equipment, and it's a 6-week window to do it. And you hope that it doesn't rain by the time that happens. And like the last year, and actually, you know, you have nothing to actually dredge. So having all those things, a lot of different moving parts here. I don't think we can predict everything, but we can get an idea. And that's one of the reasons why the tax rate went up a little bit this year, because you look at those projections also. So that's all information we can share.
But
Like
right
I
now,
said,
what we've got is we've got Chris looking at this stuff, we've got Pat looking at this stuff, we've got other stuff in the town. And these people are doing great jobs in their departments. Our job is to, take them all together as one unit and say, this is working as one unit. Or do we have to tell Cricket, not this year's Pat's year to really.
Well, that's
That's our job.
to your point, that's how it was before. It was the arm wrestling. Can we give it? This is why we went on that schedule every other year with the truck, because at one time we actually the town actually borrowed $650,000 to buy 3 trucks.
Well, I'm aware, and Cricket spread that out. That's important.
I was there too.
So remember, to your point, but also what I mentioned to you before, sometimes you gotta let the budget come to you. And as these pieces start to fall in place, like with Patrick, you'll know when his mowers are going to be rolled over. He has all this stuff, and his is more of a smaller type of snapshot. So I think
We've got
we
a small capital budget too.
absolutely. So we beat this together.
Yes.
Okay. Can we move on then?
So we can start that on our Monday meeting.
I've already asked Patrick to get a wish list together of stuff, because he's been wanting this for years also. The only reason this was actually discussed this year was because we had a very nice mortgage tax. If we didn't have a very nice mortgage tax, we would not be having this discussion. So once again, I've asked him to put his wish list together, of things that we need, not want, like the lights, that type of thing. So this is one of the things that he's been wanting to do for years, but it's been pushed because of other needs. So on that note, I guess we use that as a segue. Does anybody else want to discuss number 9? Which is the...
I'm okay with this project. It made me think of the Milton Meadows project, and they have a playground. Are they putting a half-court in? They probably should.
I don't know that, to be honest with you. I'd have to look at their specs. I know they're putting in a community center building over there, but I don't know.
That's something maybe we should talk to them about, because.
We can suggest it.
Yeah. Or-
I think they do have. Yeah, I may be thinking of Village Solars.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, they definitely have.
Village Solars had one in the
and
upper
a
part.
playground,
Full
right.
solar, yes. I don't remember there being more than just a playground
I think when you have a potential for a number of kids.
but isn't it a seniors,
No.
It's seniors, it's quite mixed.
It's integrated, like, so there's likely to be kids, and when you have a half-court,
No,
you really get paid back. I mean, when people have that kind of energy and they want to do something with themselves, it's a good focus for energy.
You're stretching my memory, but I thought there was like 2 or 3 little pockets of playgrounds
there were.
over there one time.
I don't think it was specified as to exactly what was got one question.
Ask them, they'll
Yeah.
probably say yes, and you could probably make it work in connection with the trail
Yeah, that's
somehow,
a
too.
lot.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yes.
court, let's go full court.
It's going to be a big development.
Let's just keep it full court. North Syracuse.
So,
There is.
yeah, so for the record, this is three courts we're talking about. It's the one, I believe, down in Lovellville, the one down in Myers Park, and also the one
Up here on the ball field.
Actually walked around, looked at them, you know, and not being an expert in that. I think that when you look at the numbers, once again, getting back to value, I think it was a significant savings by doing it this year. So we beat that one to death. We want to talk about it.
Is this going to be done in 2018?
Pardon me?
This is going to be done in 2018?
The money will be allocated and the deal will be set because it's like a end of the year type of thing. If you do it now, I think it was $38,000, it ended up being $24,000. So there's a significant savings to do that now. And once again, if we didn't have this other opportunity, I wouldn't have even recommended it.
Isn't it too cold?
I don't think they're going to be able to do it.
No, they'll do it in the
You're locking the
spring,
deal
but you want to
Lock the deal.
lock the deal in now. But it's like the end of year clearance type of thing.
And how does that work with the town setting a contract in 2018 that gets put on 2019's budget?
Well, that's a conversation they ask for. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe it gets paid now. But that's something that we've contracted things out before for residential development goods, so I don't think it's a huge consideration as far as it goes. Once again, I also trust Patrick's judgment on this.
Well, I'm not asking about that, I'm just asking about how it works in terms of the budget. Is this going to be a 2019 thing? Is this going to be a 2018 thing?
Well, it depends on when they want the money.
You budget it when you pay it.
Okay.
You really don't have an issue with agreeing to something this year that you're planning for next year. You do touch on, there is a constitutional limitation on your ability to bind future boards to certain types of contracts. So you could agree to something that 8 years from now, a board is required to pay on. But from a year-to-year basis, as long as you're not crossing, the good rule of thumb is 4 years. The general municipal law, for example, for intermunicipal agreements says 5 years. So once you start looking at a contract where you're going to bind a future town board, think of it as I know it could be 2 years, but you're going to bind a future town board to a contract that isn't specifically tied to a particular type of public improvement, like the consolidated water district, where a large improvement like bone plant could take 10 years. Whenever you start to cross into another board's jurisdiction or approval, that's when you have to think, okay, is this one of the ones that I have to worry about, or is this an exception?
Okay, so let me ask about the buying the truck for Cricket, which is a 5-year bond. I was going to get into that time period. Are you thinking about that?
What truck for
The
grid?
lower.
Well, that's highway equipment.
So
You
that-
can have long-term purchasing for highway equipment.
Okay.
Right, because it's a public purpose, it's part of your effect. The probable period of usefulness set by New York State, the maximum financing period that you're allowed for that particular piece of equipment under local line finance law, section 11 is 15 years.
Okay.
I put it on the analysis sheet so you know what some of that terminology starts to mean.
Okay.
It's just,
What did you say is the savings?
You need to get those exact figures from, I believe it was like 38 and he got it for 24, something along those lines.
That's for the courts or for the?
Those are the 3 basketball courts to be serviced on. But you should probably give Patrick a call tomorrow for the accurate figures. Maybe I can look it up right now. But my phone has a limit of how many emails, which is probably a blessing and a curse more of a blessing on that.
So, guys, which kind of things is the board not able to tie up a future board on? Because I'm not sure what you were saying on that.
well, what if you were to enter into a contract with a local office supplier and enter into a 20-year contract for office supplies? You really couldn't do that. So the constitutional standard has to do with whether you're exceeding, whether you're taking away from the authority of a future board. Some things are necessarily longer than the lifespan of one election, like equipment, water districts, and things like that. Some things are not.
So
So,
what I'm hearing is kind of if we're buying it this year and using it for a period of time, or paying for a period of time, that's okay. If we're were saying, we'll keep buying the same kind of thing from you over time, that becomes the problem.
Yeah, that could be a classic example. I mean, for instance, who normally contracts for 20 years of office supplies? Okay, let's say you hire a contractor, you have let's say that the town decides that it needs to hire a contractor to do water testing for the Department of Health, to go out and test after flushing all the points in the consolidated water district to make sure the water's drinkable, healthy, whatever. You don't have any trihalometane or whatever it is that could be going wrong. And the town finds a contractor that it likes, so it says, well, we'll enter into a 20-year agreement with you to provide this service for the next 20 years. No, you can't find a future board of that contract. It's a personal services contract. So there are things that you're allowed to have long-term, and that's why, for example, I'm not sure all the numbers make sense, but Section 11 of the local finance law is like literally 15 pages long. Just about anything that you're allowed to finance, they set forth the maximum period of time you're allowed to finance it for. And you can't go past that.
So as a question, can we do more than a one-year lease on a cleaner? Or one-year contract for our cleaning contract?
You probably could go to 2 years, but you still have to go through competitive bidding and everything like that. And the recommendation is do it annually because the price is changing. Sort of the prevailing wage difference.
So that's something that has come up in the discussion. If I'm not using it, I could use it as a segue. Are we done with this?
We could go down to that, because that's an important one to be discussed.
Okay, so the contract is going to expire, I think, at the end of December, if I'm not mistaken, for our cleaner. And at the time that the amount was less than $20,000, so we didn't have to go through the bid process, if I'm correct. Now we have to go through, we have to just put out the bid. If I'm
I
correct.
understand it.
So having said that, is that something we need to do? What if we don't get enough analysis done by our next meeting, and we go into January? Do we hire the cleaning service on a per diem basis? Do we have Patrick do it? What do we do?
Well, the first question is, can we hire them on a monthly basis while we're doing the bidding process?
I think I kind of
Well,
alluded to that.
That's what I'm asking, is it okay?
Obviously, doing longer-term contract for those types of services tends to lead to better prices. Okay? Doesn't always. The reason that we were able to do, or at least, the reason that there was a 3-month is because there was only 3 months left in the year. Running an annual contract is logical, it's rational, and a 3-month contract would give you a proving ground to see if they're doing a good job without crossing the competitive bidding threshold. But it's clear if you're serializing the deal by going for it on a month-to-month or other basis, then you can't segment the bid for the same service to avoid competitive bidding. So the thought was, back in September, October, we'll do the 3 months, we'll put it out to bid in December, we'll see who the best bet is, and we'll make a decision in January. So, as I understand, that would still be the plan. Now, obviously, you don't know whether or not you're going to get bidders. You may opt to change the plan. It's up to you. But your question was, what happens if we don't do anything in terms of approving competitive bidding or taking the lowest acceptable bid, and we want to continue this service in January? What do we do?
Well, I was thinking it's.
Take the risk.
I was thinking it's going to put out a bid in November, so we had it done by now, but I slipped my mind too.
Well, I had it on, actually Patrick contacted me about it, and I had it on my calendar for this particular meeting.
Okay.
So he had said he was going to cover it or present on it or something. So you only need 5 or 10 days notice to do a competitive bid, and doing a competitive bid on cleaning is not a difficult thing.
You should be able to get a couple, I would think.
Right, do we have to approve it though, which either means we have a special meeting to approve it, or we might, be 2 weeks into January with our old contract expired and the new one not started.
Well, we
If
should,
you told him to go forward, he could have bids in hand by the next meeting if he wanted to.
I think if we're going to do this, we should at least look at the bids and see.
Sure.
Can we go through a bidding process and change our minds and we don't want to do this?
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, If you write your bid correctly, yes. Normally, my standard bid always says, and all of the town bids have said since at least 2004, the town reserves the right to reject any and all bids.
Right.
You can get the bids and then just decide we're not accepting any of them.
Well, if it's $35,000, we're going to talk about hiring someone to replace that. And that's what I want to be able to do, is say, if the lowest bid is $35,000, for some crazy reason, that that's what they decide to bid this year, we may reassess whether we're hiring a service or hiring people to do it.
Would you want a 1 year or 2 year? Would we still be doing this discussion next year?
I think it would be kind of performant, though, we just put out the same thing in December, and
Yeah, I mean, I would recommend 1 year, but you can do what you wish. I mean, I just wouldn't go over 2, and I definitely wouldn't go over 4.
But perhaps next year we will do it in November.
Okay. That seems reasonable.
I like that idea.
So this year, we're gonna go ahead and have Patrick get 3 bids.
Yep.
As soon as he can.
Well, he puts it out for bid, he gets whatever he gets.
Yeah.
Well,
He is
it
on
still needs to be
vacation.
advertised.
Yeah, it's gotta be published.
Gotta be published.
Yeah.
FYI, he's on vacation until Monday.
I'm willing to come in to a special meeting.
I am too.
In which we just deal with this one issue if the timing requires that. I would like to, but I'd be willing to come to a special meeting because I understand the timeliness of it and all that.
Right. Didn't he do a description of what, when it went out last time, and it was below the
It's
threshold?
not that, it's not, like I said, it's pretty cut and dry as far as doing it. The only thing I think he needs is guidance on procedure to go forward. From there, we advertise it, and we send out, and we have to contact the same people that did it before, other people, or whatever. What if you only get one bid,
You can take it,
or not?
or not. You can't, it's up to you, but yeah.
Well, so I think a lot of this, 90% of this is already done.
Yes.
It's just a matter of how we do it now, because once again, it's the first time we've done this. Next year, I think we'll do it in November. It's like we're working on our organizational now as opposed to January.
Right.
And I think our board learns as we go, because this is a new, this is uncharted territory for us also. Where before it was always an employee.
That seems reasonable.
Okay. Okay, let's move on then. Nuclear, just, so we heard the proposal. Is that proposal in the minutes for?
No, it is not.
Okay. He observed to the floor. He had his, he gave us the proposal.
Yeah, I meant to grab that.
Mhm.
Everybody else got that. Basically what he did is he did a long description, and then he took the city of Ithaca's proposal as a model that he used.
My question is, first of all, I'm sensitive to his concerns, as I have to anybody who comes here from Village School or meets with me privately, or anybody who shares information. I'm sensitive to their concerns. My question is, what is the role of the board? You know, I mean, he has this information out there. If we need to make it a public record, so he's concerned about that, that's fine. I just think that we're going down the wrong road
It's
here.
the other sheet.
Right, well, this is the
I'm
resolution.
sorry, should I be quiet? My concern is that we're going down the road here, because if we do a resolution from this one, where do we go to a resolution? What is our duty as a town? You know, my opinion is to take care of the town issues. Those other issues, what's next? North Korea missiles? What's next? Impeachment? What's next? You know, my personal opinion is that he's had his 3 minutes, 5 minutes. If we need to make it in the record, it's in the record. We've addressed his concern.
And you, as supervisor, could write him a nice note saying thank you for, and, you know, we have similar viewpoints, but we feel that the use of public resolution is not prescribed.
I mean, he had exposure to Lansing Ledger, which is wonderful. He had exposure elsewhere. If we want to put it in the public record in the minutes that this is what he's concerned about, I have no problem doing that. I think as a board, I think we need to focus focus on what we can do as a town, but also not be disrespectful to our citizens. That's just my personal opinion.
And I go the other way. I think that it's important for us as a town to speak out on issues from time to time as they come before us, as they're important. I think this is an important issue because I think we're watching our government take a step that I personally think is problematic. I think nuclear weapons are a dangerous thing, and starting the arms race again affects this town. It affects this town economically, and potentially affects us if something goes wrong. And when you look over the history of nuclear weapons, we've come so close, so many times, to something going wrong. Which has taken the judgment of somebody to ignore that order, to not believe that warning that came by exactly that state. And I think that us taking a stand is how that works its way up the chain. I think that every so often it's important for us to take a stand on a state or federal issue and say, the town of Lansing cares about this so that our representatives up the chain hear from us. And that's kind of what I hear from them every so often, is they'd like to hear what Lansing thinks.
Well, the fact that we have a bomb shelter at the school, the fact that we grew up in this area with the bomb, I mean, by not doing this does not mean we don't take this seriously. But when you grew up with the bomb, you realize what you can and cannot do. And I'm sorry, but whatever's going behind the scenes is far more delicate than we'll ever know about. My point is we need to discuss town issues, what we do as a town. If people want to write their private letters to their congressmen and women and their state assembly and their state senators, they're more than happy to do that. But I get very concerned when we start precedent down this road when we were elected to take care of the town. And because we don't address this with a law or a resolution, does not mean we're concerned about it. What it means is that we're trying to address what we were elected to do, which is the town, in my opinion. What's the rest of the board feel about before we move on?
I hear
I guess I feel that I'd like our representatives to know how the town Lansing stands. I would feel terrible. I think in my lifetime, maybe something will happen, but it might in my children's and my grandchildren's. And I guess I'd like to have it on the record that we stood against more nuclear weapons.
Well,
And I'd like our representatives to know that.
I don't think our representatives have any different view than we do.
And the people we represent, how many of them are going to say, I'm for nuclear weapons?
No.
So maybe,
No one does.
so stating something that's obvious is a message. Is a message. I mean, I could go.
but why do we need to state the obvious? I mean, once again, how much time are we going to debate on these issues, and what's the next issue that we're going to debate? We're all concerned about this, okay? Well, we're all concerned about the refiring of the plant, which was a resolution we passed, 5-0. And guess what? What happened to that one with the pipeline? Sorry. There was a clear message. Nothing. And that was 3 Democrats, 2 Republicans voted for that one. Nothing. So, once again, I think we get caught up in this a little bit too much. And because we don't, I mean, come on. Anybody who doesn't think they're against nuclear weapons, really? You know, and you read this resolution about climate change, if you've got a nuclear war, climate is not, you're not going to worry about that. That's done. I mean, we're done. We're done. And we all know we're done. But that goes without saying that we're done.
It's been the past 70 years.
Yeah. And there's always an arm race going on. I mean, we're just not privy to all of it. So once again, I think personally we're going down the wrong road with this. We've acknowledged his concerns. If you want to put it in the public record of a town of Ithaca resolution that he handed to us as a public record, I have no problem with that. Move on. But to go ahead and start making laws and stuff that go beyond the boundaries of the town of Lansing, I get really concerned about that.
I was just saying, this is a resolution, these are the awareness, and we endorse it, and want this sent to our representatives. That's the official line.
Well, that was where we were going with this. concerned about Mr. Osika's comments, I got no problem with that, move on, because I don't want to use up any more of tonight's time. Yet we're concerned about that, but he's doing a resolution from somebody else. If you want to adopt that resolution that we're concerned about, that we're saying we support Mr. Osika's concerns, if you want to do that, I've got no problem with that. But I don't want to have every concern come forth now. It's like, okay, am I concerned about asteroids? Yes. Am I concerned about pollution? Yes. But after a while, you start stating the obvious. The obvious, and is that really, as a town board, what we want to do? We share their concerns. I don't think there's anybody who says we don't.
You know, I think if you look at the history of the fracking issue, one of the things that really turned the tide on that was towns taking stands like this. It really did make a difference. It's why the fracking ban was instituted. I think, I'm not so worried about the avalanche of people coming and saying, you know, you endorsed cats this week, it's going to be a problem. I think we've had someone come forward, and I'm going to suggest, why don't I take this resolution, write something up, and we can discuss this at one of the next meetings, depending on when we get a chance to write this up.
That's fine. Well, we write it up, okay? Not.
I'll write it up and pass it around to give us a starting point.
I would rather just put this to bed. If you want to say we share Mr. Osika's concerns, leave it at that. That's fine. Now we start writing this, we'll start talking about some more, okay? And my last thing I don't want to hear is more fees being ground because we have more paralysis to analysis. And by the way, that frack and everything, we voted for the moratorium. Okay, we did, okay, the town of Lansing before you were here. We voted for that. What we're concerned about is that the town of Lansing takes the hit for all of the millions of dollars of taxes that we lost, and everybody else doesn't make that contribution. Okay, that 50 million actually is 140 million cumulative over 4 years. You take off that 10 million from that, you've got the 40 million from the power plant. Okay, if the rest of the towns want to start kicking in of our lost revenue, more than happy to. But it's really easy for somebody else to say, you're going to take the hit, and we feel fine about it. Well, how about Lansing? You know what I'm saying? I'm the one who struggles with all these taxes, and everyone says, aren't we wonderful? Really? What about us? So anyways.
It's not January yet.
Can we just deal with this
Okay.
issue?
So where are we going to go with this?
I was going to write up something, we're going to deal with this next meeting, you're doing, get a chance to start passing something around, so you have some verbiage as opposed to just say, more of this. That's my suggestion.
I personally like to put this to bed right now and say we basically acknowledge Mr. Osika's concerns and support him and move on.
I'd like to be more specific.
What's the rest of the board feel?
I support Joe in writing something up.
Andrea?
I guess I'd like to see what you comes up with.
Okay. Doug?
I'm with you. I'd like to go with the, I have the same concerns.
So
Why would I want that? No one wants it.
Okay. Well,
I'll try to do something short and concise.
let's move on. Discussion on. Have we come up with any ideas for that besides what we've discussed? Would we like to add any of the plaques?
Did someone talk to the family about their thoughts and concerns on this?
The
You
family.
were going to reach out to her.
Yeah, I talked to them.
Which one?
I talked to his daughter Judy, and she talked to her daughters, the granddaughters as
Are we
well.
talking Burger?
I think.
Okay.
And they expressed the thought that, something having to do with
The fishing cove, I don't know, I sent out a response about,
is that cove named? Can we,
Which code?
where the perch are on Salt Point? I assume there's a name
to that, so we don't really have jurisdiction over that, probably.
What you're talking about where the...
Where the pilings are up there.
But actually,
Was that a great use to accent?
That would probably, that
We
would
lease the
probably,
land.
There's also pilings in the Doga.
right, no, it's the Salt Point one.
just saying.
Yeah.
Just
But I'm
to
just
know where the
saying,
sign
he
is or
has,
something.
he has fished out there for the last 80 years, except for being in the war.
That's the one that I liked.
That's the one I think would have the most meaning to him. A plaque could go on the,
Even if we just honor him for fishing here for 80 years, I mean.
but I think
if we
he
can't
would
name
also appreciate a plaque on the,
Doesn't matter where, I'm all for whatever, doesn't matter.
The
What
other
I-
idea
The only
was-
concern I have about the South Point is that we lease the land.
We lease the land.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, that doesn't matter for that.
Doesn't matter, you can name a geological feature, whatever you want, whether or not that becomes the accepted name over time. I have an uncle who they named a mountaintop out in Utah after.
I don't care.
So what you're saying is, we could use the word name the hill behind my house, which me and my neighbors own.
Right.
Outright, there's no road access to it at all, but we could name it Joe's Point if we wanted to, and that would be perfectly legal.
Right, it may not
May
have
not
any
stick.
significant, for lack of a better term, cartographic meaning, but the town can designate a name for something. If you want to name that little cove where you're talking about, where that one bend is, there's actually an entire slope, like an old collapsed point, that's why
That's where Salmon Creek used to come out, before the railroad.
Right, and then there's a collapsed shale ledge there that creates a huge rock bed for the perch, and they breed there, blah, blah, blah. So there's a reason why they're always there, and there's a reason why people fish there, just like there's a reason why there are certain places in Seneca Lake.
So
Just
getting
say
back
the
to
town
this-
hereby names this cove
Yeah.
Isaac's Cove.
I like that.
I think that would tickle him, and we could put a plaque on the pole at the launch, where people launch boats.
I'm open to all that as long as the family's comfortable with it.
I'm fine with all that.
What about Stan Burke?
Where did that stand? You were talking about naming the road?
No.
Just putting a plaque by the code office because he used to work at the code office.
I think the original point brought up by Mary and George was to put a plaque down at Logan's Park, because he grew up
It could be put on the bandstand,
Gazebo there.
the gazebo.
But I mean, does he go after
You
it?
could, the gazebo doesn't have a name, right?
Not yet.
but I think that was his original point,
Okay.
whether or not.
We're talking about the gazebo or the,
Not the,
Not the pavilion.
not the pavilion has a name.
Yeah.
pavilion has it.
That's the name, that's the house.
The gazebo, I don't believe has a name. So that'd kind of nice.
Is that something you want to reach out to the family?
What if we
And,
could
but
say?
also state what he did.
Yes, on it, the name and
Yeah.
why, what he did.
What he did.
Well, I think it's important that you do that like both plaques. Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So people know the history of it, and you feel good about it, or whatever.
I mean, we could potentially put Gus's plaque on the info pavilion too.
Whichever, once again, whichever the.
No, on the cove.
The cove, on the launch area, yeah.
I like the launch area because that's where.
Because
people
that's
want to
where
see it.
people, yeah.
Well, as long as it's significant to what he did, or what he'd like to do, some
Yeah.
action there.
Isaac's Cove,
Yeah.
I like that.
Okay.
it's nice.
That's something that's more likely to stick.
We agree on those two plaques, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Third plaque,
It's what?
He was
Another one?
He was
This is
enslaved to the
Ludlow.
Ludlow Bill, and
Oh.
eventually escaped and went off and was doing a seafaring. It's a slave narrative about here that talks about his life in Ludlow Bill and how the Ludlow brothers helped him escape from a real cruel slave master. And I'd like to see him honored somewhere in the town.
what's
I
his
wonder,
name?
what's-
Peter Wheeler.
Could we
We did a
have,
story on him on the book that we put out like 4 years ago.
well, here's an idea. What about an additional historical marker attached to the historical marker that's down there?
I think there needs to be a story,
Because
because
there is a
lot of people get
historical-
lost with that name.
Oh, you know, it needs the background so people know
But
who is and what.
that goes to the plaque, though, you need to put something in there with information of why it's so significant. And I think we can do that, and once again, down there, Ludlow, wherever the people are comfortable. I don't think there's a family member around here, is there, that you would reach out to for this, or not?
I don't think so.
So we would leave it up to maybe your wife's discretion, or Karen's discretion.
Yeah, I'll think about it.
Well, yeah, I mean, I kind of sensed that, but the fact that she had shared some concerns, and I thought it was very interesting.
Yeah.
But once again, I think it's a story that needs to be told, but a lot of people, since Dan's article and the book, other than that, a lot of people in this area don't know it, so I'll let you handle that.
Okay.
Oh, I want to add, after that conversation, go back to Gus for a second.
Okay, how long are we talking? We're talking 20 words, 30 words?
The size of a, is there an information plaque? You know, sometimes less is more.
I know, I
A
just.
couple of sentences?
Okay.
What his significance was, I mean, the fact that you said he was a slave one time, I think that's important.
Yeah.
And a lifelong member of Ludlow, I mean, all these things are significant, just like Rose Harbor with the Underground Railroad is significant. I mean,
Right, I want to get an idea of length, and I'll try to figure out how many important elements I can put in.
well, and sometimes one or two important words, people get the picture.
Right. I will write up something and
Okay.
pass it around and start kicking around.
Do you want me to try to do that for Gus too? Okay.
Great.
I want to say that I think it's very fitting that that would be Isaac's code, because he also, before he went to the war, worked at that salt plant.
Really?
You said what?
He worked at the salt plant down
So
there.
that should be on the plaque.
Yes.
Is that what brought the family here? The salt mine?
I don't know. Probably. A lot of
Perhaps a
serious.
question to ask him.
Yeah.
Okay. What else?
My plans to the dates for the meetings next year, I would like to use February either forward or backwards, because the Association of Towns meetings ends that same day, and I would like to do both and not be rushing back here.
That's a good idea.
So
So
the
you got the
20th,
following week.
the following week is Thanksgiving. Oh, no, I'm thinking, never mind.
February.
February, open
Yeah.
up.
So are you talking February, you're not talking February 20th, you're talking February 27th, or February 13th?
Either way, if you do it the next one, I can give you a report of that meeting. If you do the following one, or if you do the previous one, you won't get your report.
Well, perhaps other people like to go to that meeting too, so,
I hope so.
see how it goes. So it would be February,
I think do it do it the one afterwards, and then you can get a fresh report from the Association of Towns.
February 27th.
Okay.
Does that work for everybody so far? Why don't we check your calendars and see if there's a conflict, you may go with the 13th.
That's fine with me.
Okay. And then our meeting in January will be the 23rd? The third one?
The 16th is the third one.
I'm sorry, you're right. Excuse me.
What
16th.
page is that on?
Yeah, what is it on?
I'm not sure. I'm looking at a calendar.
Oh,
I was looking at trying to see the resolution.
I'm not finding it.
It's in here.
It's in here, I scrolled down on it on my computer, but I have to put it on paper.
Keep going.
It's, second page, second one down, it's highlighted in blue.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, that's why I didn't see it.
but it's only September and.
It says on the.
Those are additional meetings. But this doesn't list the calendar. It's always the third Wednesday of
We're
each month.
just talking third Wednesdays.
Right.
February adjustment.
Okay, so we're talking about the third Wednesday of each month, except for February. Okay? Shall we discuss, since we had a little bit of a teachable moment tonight, you want to discuss, shall we have just one meeting a month?
I think the budget time, extra meetings will be helpful. I think we had that issue with having to have a public hearing and then being able to discuss things.
We can post extra ones if needed, and we can give them enough notice.
We do, Deb did include in here 2 additional meetings will be held on Wednesday, September 4th and November 6th, and I think those were to accommodate the extra budget meetings.
That's what I meant to say.
Yep, that's in,
So they'll be here at the town hall.
it was in here proposed to be at the village.
Well, since tonight's interesting event, I would move that we keep all our town hall meetings.
Especially if they're budget meetings, we don't want
Yes.
people looking for us.
Yes,
Okay,
so 2 additional meetings with all of the town hall.
okay.
Yeah, that's, I want a consensus here, I'm not, this isn't a autocratic.
I agree.
Okay.
Look at you, get full agreement.
How they're going to use the new.
I lost my touch, haven't I? I enjoy spirited debate. At the end of the day, I still give you right home.
I got it.
That's why I offer. Is he riding? Oh, he's driving like, Joe, can you ride? Oh, you don't? Oh, that's too bad. Okay.
Sorry, so February, what's the date of it?
We think it's going to be the 27th, so just giving everybody a few weeks to think about it.
If there's a conflict. And we can discuss that at our next meeting. Or just email. Pardon me? You have a conflict?
So maybe we'll make it the 13th.
Okay. So we'll pencil the 13th, then we can check their schedules, see if that's a problem. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
So February 13th with a question mark.
I have nothing on that.
Because it's a day before now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the reason.
Better be go up.
I don't want to keep up too much time, because I do have to go into executive session about something, but looking over these resolutions, a lot of this is housekeeping.
Now, there was a note here that said Deb will fill in, and I wasn't clear whether these are this year's dates or they're
That's just information that we'll fill in with, because we'll put our year-end totals in there.
These are not the year in total.
These are not the year-end totals as of now.
That's what I wanted to clarify, was okay. I know, I want to see how drafty they were.
Yeah, some of it has been updated,
Yeah.
and you'll see, like, it's highlighted in green, it says updated for 2019 or something like that, the ones that have been updated.
Okay. And I will ignore the others, because they are old.
Yeah. Well, we can get easily confused.
Yeah, now we were talking, did anyone talk with Pat about some of the fee changes we were discussing? I know he was talking about changing the fees.
Well, there'll be a discussion for an email on Monday. You can send an email now.
Yeah.
The same thing with the fee schedule. I guess we're comfortable with once for them. I talked to Lynn about the permits and everything.
Yeah, the discussion with Pat was basically Lansing residents get all the recreational speed at some kind of a discount rate.
Some things they do because they're right in the town. And then if you're outside, there's either a different fee or a fee where there isn't for the for instance, if you're out of town, I don't know if it's for camp, but it is for both subs. I think there's a differential there. Yes.
Yeah, we were talking about expanding that to everything we can to say, if you're a Lansing resident, you're already paying taxes into this. You get a slightly better deal than if you're outside.
Yeah.
Yes, they have data in their office, for instance, with their campsites. They do a 50-mile radius to see what the campsite fees are.
Right.
And they'll see, are they within that range? Myself, this is a five-star hotel.
Right.
Our part, but we tried it for a number of years to nudge it, to use the phrase. But they're a little hesitant to get too pricey with this. And yet, last year, people had gone for 50-mile radius, couldn't find any campgrounds. They're going booked. So we have an excellent rate, and hopefully. Yeah, it's better. Amazing what you're doing to call your state senator. But having said that, the camping nowadays is a little bit different than it was back then. Lots on 4 wheels. But having said that, we'll know by, I think, next Tuesday, the 11th, they're going to come out with the grant awards.
I was gonna ask you that.
Keep our fingers crossed. We got two that are up for grants.
So those are being announced in October?
Ish. Yeah. Ish. So one's a $750,000 grant, and one's a $500,000 grant. So
And you take either one, right?
for both. Yeah. We're on a roll here. We're on a really good winter so far. So I just
Keep it going.
Keep it going. Go the hot hand.
Right.
So having said that,
I just think it's important in all our constructors where we can to say, Parks and Recreation, you're a resident, you get a better deal than people outside.
Pretty much always been the
There was
Yeah.
a few that weren't, and Pat talking about changing those so that the resident guys, like,
Well-
it doesn't have to be huge, it's just, you know, an acknowledgement that you're a resident. You should pay as much as somebody who isn't a resident and isn't paying Lansing taxes.
This is the opportunity when you have a new rec director to go through, and if you want to change things, then we'll look forward to his comments next week.
Yes, and I'm bringing it up because you asked for comments on this, and I know I talked with Pat about this
That's
3 months ago,
Okay.
and,
So, I mean, not to be, are we comfortable with all this other housekeeping as far as supervisor is authorized and all this? I mean, are we comfortable with all the stuff going down through the list so that if we do have to have a discussion, we can have it now or in the next few weeks and not at the board?
do
Because,
you want us to put more work on the supervisor's list here?
yeah, why not? Go ahead. Go ahead. Probably. But what I'm saying is that if we're comfortable with the same things we had before and a lot of stuff, it's simply housekeeping. If there's other stuff you want changed, or discussed, or answered why we do this, then I think we need to have that discussion soon.
Well, I got a question for you guys. And I know we've been going over this over and over again. Planning board members. If we have a planning board member that leaves mid-term, are we required to pay them the per diem, or do they have to be here in December to get paid? How does, can we differentiate that? I know it's not per meeting.
Right. So, public officers receive a salary as an incident of their office, not because it's tied to, believe it or not, actually performing the duties of the office.
Got that.
Yeah, so, that question came up before, and, you know, I don't know what the actual law is on that, and I'm gonna suspect that there might not be one, because normally you have a classic conflict, and that is, if your payment is they have to be in office on the date that you pay the salary, then are you saying that you don't have to pay them for the work that they perform? So you're now running into the problem with the labor law because of the way the town law is being interpreted. When I discussed it earlier today, someone asked me about it. I said, well, I can look, but to me, if the person was in office 6 months, then pay them half. That seems fair.
Salary.
Right, then you're paying them
That
a
makes
salary as the word salary is traditionally meant. Now, I certainly can look it up, or someone can call the comptroller's office and say, hey, is there a ruling on this? But in the end, I don't want the cure to be worse than the disease. It might take more time and energy and expense in employee time or legal expense. Just to say $300.
Yeah.
And maybe the person who earned that $300 is just going to say, I gifted it back to Bill Bob. That wouldn't actually surprise me at all, no. But I certainly
want
can
to know what
look.
we're supposed to do and what we can do.
I can look, you know, or someone can call the comptroller or the Association of Towns and see if they have.
We've had this discussion, similar discussion, a couple of years ago, about you pay someone only per meeting that they attend.
I'm not even talking, I understand that. This is,
Well, I'm talking, and I'm just what we're talking about. Because we have a concern here about, with the ZBA, how they met for 5 meetings, because they only get paid $250 now instead of $600. Do they get paid for $300 instead of $600? Or do you pay them $600 knowing that they don't have to have many meetings? That means there isn't too many variances they're asking, or too much. It's like this person who has sick leave and never takes it. I'm happy you're not sick. I mean, at what point do we also, and that's, by the way, in here to be discussed, is what fee do we set for them? Do you set $50 per meeting for each one? What if they have something contentious coming up and they have to do a lot of meetings? Well, then is $300 enough? So these are debates we have. But to your point, if somebody leaves in the middle, or God forbid they get sick or whatever, do we then go through and say, can we put in there something along, or, you know, we can prorate it if that person voluntarily leaves or has to leave or no longer valid. I'm sure there's ways we can word it.
well, the other question is, someone leaves mid-term, and we replace them. So we now just add an expense, because now we've got 2 people, and we're paying everybody who's been on the board at all,
Unless you prorate it.
unless you prorate it somehow, which I'm not sure that we can.
Well, there's different ways you can handle that too. You don't have to replacing it if it was an alternate. Make the alternate that acting member, and then at the next year, you do the alternate.
I know,
going
but
forward.
especially with the ZBA and the small numbers, you can get them down to where they're having trouble meeting.
Well,
I'll run
and
into that.
special circumstance, I don't think they've had that yet. They have one alternate right now, or they will. Right, Melanie? Is she gonna be the new alternate?
I assume so.
Yeah, so you have one
They
alternate,
haven't voted on that yet.
and you have, it's a 5-member board, so you need 3 members for a quorum.
Give a little flex.
We have a little flex, yeah.
I'm sure if we have to do something emergency basis, we'll do that. But you're also talking about $600.
I know, I know, I think Laura was the one who asked, how do we do this? And I don't think we gave her a specific answer.
Sue.
Well, I mean, to your point, Chris Williams,
Yeah, I know.
that's why it was stimulate this conversation. What do we do with him? Do we pay him the full amount? We do. Do we?
I don't know.
That's the question we started.
Just call the Association of Towns and ask the question, can we prorate half-year salary?
I don't know what the answer to that is, and I've never had it come up because it's, the one payment a year thing is pretty unusual in the world of labor, but look at any other public officer, we'll take Cricket since he's not here. If he were to leave mid-year, he wouldn't earn his whole salary for the year.
Exactly.
Once you've done a certain amount of work, it's a question of, in terms of labor law, it's a question of what have you earned? Because you're entitled to be paid for what you earned in the town. The converse rule is very true, and that is the town can't pay for work not yet performed.
Well, isn't this a contract, basically, that we're approving? And in the contract, can't you write the contract so that you address that concern?
Only if the state law allows us to write a contract that way. I know we can't pay them per meeting unless we go through some other thing, but can we pay them per month?
But we don't have the answer, so you're gonna have to call.
No, but I'm saying, if we pay them per month, this issue goes away. We give them $50 a month, that's $600 a year, and they just get a $50 check every month.
Correct.
And then-
Right, you can
Whether
s-
they need or not.
Whether they meet or not.
Right, you can set how often you pay someone, weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, that's statutory, that's in town
Why don't we
article
just put it that
2.
way, and just say, instead of $600, we say $50 a month. If they leave midterm, they stop getting paid, we put somebody else in, and the issue's over with.
Do we have to have Players Association of Towns?
Guys, says that's okay.
No, that's fine, there's a statute that says you can do it.
Then why don't we work on that in our resolution to have that as a proper verbiage so that we can go forward? Should we also do it with the planning board?
Yeah, I figured to do both boards that way, and that just eliminates any question.
So that at every meeting, in theory, if they're having a meeting, there's a check in their mailbox with their information packet that goes out.
Just like we get paid every 2 weeks, they get paid
Yeah.
every month?
Every month,
Yeah.
Every 4 weeks?
no, once a month.
At their first regular meeting of every month, something like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
Whatever.
And if
If
they
they don't
miss
have one,
it,
then
the
it'll
checks,
be in their mailbox.
the checks.
So is the board comfortable with this?
Yeah.
Yeah,
We
I
just
don't
can't-
think we can do
And
first
they
Check
regular
still
will be
pay
in
their
their town
salary.
mailbox.
Can't do our first regular meeting, because ZBA doesn't necessarily meet every month.
Right, that's why I said, if they don't have a meeting, then it would be in their mailbox on their regular meeting date, even if they don't have a meeting.
Right.
Okay,
I mean,
or just the first of the month, why not?
it could be the first of the month, yeah.
Let's just say the first of the month, they get paid $50. It'll be in their mailbox, and it solves the problem, someone needs someone,
Yeah.
fills in.
Now that,
I got it.
beat that horse to death, no? Here, Ron?
Not yet.
I think it solves the problem.
Again,
Except for Chris.
Just pay him. Just pay him, because we're vague, and we're like, leaning towards him, and he wants to give it back, that's fine, and if not.
really concerned about this? Oh, just me.
Well, I think the situation.
So what I'll say is going forward,
Yeah.
going forward,
We have a solution.
Moving forward.
you are priceless, you know that, you are priceless. When you look at this tape again, you also will get a laugh out of it.
Yeah, I understand. I think the issue was we were vague, and so we have to lean towards stuff.
I think we have a solution to this grave concern that now been addressed. Okay, what else?
Executive session.
Okay, we're gonna talk about, I guess we'll go over all the rest of this stuff later. I still have to reach out to some of the, Joe, you want to be on something else you said, right?
I thought like I said, what page is it?
I am looking. Liaison officer, look at page 4. It might be watershed.
Yeah, I was thinking the watershed.
He's the alternate.
I'm the alternate, Trent is the main person.
We have that up here.
TCTC and Todd.
Just everybody look this over and make sure that they're comfortable with it. I talked to Connie about her duties, she's comfortable with hers. I've reached out to, and I think he's leaning towards at least one more year. And that's Tom Jones to be one of the water commissioners. He's the water commissioner's opening, the water commissioner points opening, he's excellent. All right, shall we now go into executive session?
Need a motion on a basis?
Motion to, let's see what the proper, should I use the updated version that Joe gave us? Let's see, this is yours laminated too?
Does anyone else?
Want to give a good
Oh, boy.
So, it has to do with employee. So that would be what? Fine, Joe, jump in. We're doing, well, we have to justify going in. Medical, financial credit, or employee history of a particular person / corp, or matters leading to such dismissal, removal, promotion, appointment, or employment. That's my motion. Have a second? I'll second it. You were waiting because,
Trying to.
okay,
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Quick question. Did I do?
Okay, Brian, the rest of you.
it is on
No,
December
come
17th.
back in and transcribe it all.
It's from 11 to 12 here.
Here's the town hall or?
Right here.
And that's why they invite me to see it.